If you're planning to get a lip piercing or you already have one, then you're probably familiar with the Labret and the vertical Labret piercing. These are probably one of the most popular choices when it comes to lip piercing, and both of them highlight the lower lip. While they look similar enough, they're actually very, very different when it comes to placement, healing, and jewelry. In this video, we're going to go over the difference between the Labret and the vertical Labret piercing, jewelry options, pain and healing time, and how to choose the best piercing for you, your lifestyle, and your aesthetic. If you're new here, hey, I'm Ruby, and welcome to Pierce Owl. We post videos every single week about all things piercings and jewelry. If you love piercings, jewelry, and body modifications, then subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so that you never ever miss a new video or an update from us. All right, let's get into it. So first things first, what's a Labret piercing? A Labret piercing is a classic and traditional lip piercing that's placed just below the bottom lip. Typically, this piercing is centrally located, though it can be placed on either side of the lip. And where the piercing rests is anywhere from right below the lip to lower down above the chin. The jewelry enters from the outside of the lip, passes straight through, and exits through the inside of the mouth. This piercing, the jewelry options are hinge segment rings, horseshoe barbells, and flat back Labret studs. As far as visibility goes, the top bead or ball of the Labret post is visible beneath the lip, while the flat back of the post is hidden in the mouth. Similarly, if you're wearing a ring, you can see it go from right below the lip and into the back of the mouth. All right, so now that we know what a Labret piercing is, what's a vertical Labret piercing? Like a Labret piercing, a vertical Labret piercing rests on the bottom of the lip, typically again in the center. However, it can be placed anywhere along either side of the lip. Unlike a Labret piercing that enters from the outside and exits through the back inside the mouth, vertical Labrets are pierced vertically, so they enter from the top of the lip and exit through the bottom. As far as jewelry options go, a vertical Labret is really limited to just a curved barbell. Rings aren't really something that can be worn in this piercing long term. And as far as visibility goes, you'll be able to see the jewelry on the top and the bottom of the lip. Next, let's go over pain, anatomy, and healing. As far as pain goes, both of these piercings are pretty similar. Lip is a sensitive area, so expect these piercings to be a little bit more spicy. This area is also very prone to swelling. Because of this, whether you have a regular Labret piercing or a vertical Labret piercing, you will be fit with a longer bar to accommodate for swelling while the piercing heals. With both of these piercings, you will need to downsize to a smaller bar. As far as Labret piercings go, proper anatomy for this piercing is pretty common. While an experienced piercer will take your gum and your teeth, basically the inside of your mouth, into account, decide where the piercing should best go so it doesn't interact with your teeth, it's pretty common that you will have the anatomy to get this piercing. As far as a vertical Labret piercing, this is a little bit more anatomy dependent. This piercing requires enough tissue for the piercing to be stable. Again, most people will have enough tissue on their lip and have enough of a curl to accommodate this piercing. However, it's good to know ahead of time that this piercing is anatomy dependent. Because the lip and the mouth heal so quickly, it may feel like these piercings are healed before they really are. The piercings typically take at least 4 months to fully heal, so keep this in mind before getting one of those piercings. All right, next let's go over the challenges, pros, and cons of vertical Labret and Labret piercings. So one thing about Labret piercings that is really good to keep in mind is that the jewelry rests inside of your mouth. What this means is that the piercing may come into contact with your teeth and gums. That contact long term can lead to enamel, tooth, and gum damage. This can be minimized with the help of an experienced piercer, good placement, and well-fitted jewelry. It's not inevitable that this piercing will lead to oral health damage. However, it is something that is good to keep in mind and know ahead of time. One of the great things about a Labret piercing is that there's a lot of options when it comes to jewelry. If wearing a ring is a priority for you, then a Labret piercing may be your best choice. This piercing can have studs, horseshoe barbells, rings as well, so there's a lot of options and range as far as styling this piercing. Okay, let's go over the challenges, pros, and cons of vertical Labret piercings. One of the pros of this piercing is that it doesn't come into contact with your mouth really at all. Of course, there are instances where your teeth could come into contact with that top piece. Jewelry doesn't enter the mouth at all, so the interaction between jewelry and gums or teeth is very minimal. However, with this piercing, there aren't as many jewelry options. You're really limited to curved barbells. I have seen people wear chains or a curved barbell hinge clicker to kind of simulate the look of a ring. However, wearing a ring in this piercing long term can promote migration, and it's just not something that should be done. Another thing that is good to keep in mind is because the jewelry rests on the lip and is totally exposed on the outside, food, drink, lip products, all of those things will inevitably get on the jewelry. To maintain the health of the piercing, just have to gently clean the jewelry probably every time after you eat. I haven't had a vertical Labret piercing, but I did have a vertical philtrum. It was a piercing that I had to maintain every single day after eating. It is something that also interacts more with what you're eating and drinking as far as hitting things. Drinking out of a straw or drinking out of a can will be different with a vertical piercing outside of the lip. So these are all things to keep in mind before getting that piercing. So with all of that information, which piercing is best for you and which one should you choose? So both the Labret and the vertical Labret piercing offer a unique addition to a facial piercing curation or as a standalone piercing. If oral health is a concern for you, then a vertical Labret piercing is probably your best choice because it has really no contact with the mouth, teeth, and gums. Oral damage isn't inevitable with a Labret piercing. There is a higher risk, and having a vertical Labret piercing can just give you the peace of mind knowing that your gums aren't receding because of that piercing. However, with a vertical Labret piercing, there aren't as many jewelry options, and you're going to be limited to curved barbells. A standard Labret piercing has a larger range of jewelry options, especially if wearing a hoop is a goal. Ultimately, the best choice depends on your anatomy, your style preferences, and your lifestyle. No matter which piercing you decide, going to a trusted and experienced piercer is honestly the most important thing. All right, so that about covers it. If you have either one of these piercings and you want to share your experience with it, feel free to leave a comment below. If you have a lip piercing and you're ready to upgrade your look, we have a whole collection of Labret studs, curved barbells, and implant-grade titanium lip jewelry on our website, piercedowel.com. It's linked below in the description. And if you're looking for more content from us, you can check out our Instagram and TikTok at piercedowel. All right, thanks so much for watching our video, and we will see you next time. Bye!